afternoon. My name is Lucy Hutchison, and I'm the commander of the Ares 1 Mars mission. My team and I are very excited to have started the process of beginning a successful civilization on Mars. We would now like to show a special broadcast from Earth. Please be patient and note that it takes a very long time for satellite signals to go from Earth to Mars and back. I would like to thank our friends for that special presentation and for all of their support in creating this success. Together, my team and I have successfully traveled to and worked to establish civilization on Mars. This great triumph would not have been possible without the dedication of past space travelers and the work of NASA. I would like to take this time to introduce my fellow astronauts. As I said before, my name is Lucy Hutchison and I'm the commander. My fellow astronauts, Louis Del Guercio, the nutritionist, Jack Ippoliti, the security mastermind, Vincenzo Lagonegro, who's in charge of uniforms, Luke Chacon, exploration, Aiden Sinsheimer, communication, and finally Jackson Warmke, our habitat designer, are all honored to be part of this mission. I would now like to discuss some of NASA's history. Through the years, the organization NASA has dedicated itself to space travel. It all started in 1958 when the U.S. successfully launched the Explorer, a satellite. Next, in the 1960s, NASA and President Kennedy set a goal of getting astronauts to the moon. NASA restlessly worked towards this goal. Project Gemini was part of the process of getting to the moon. In this process, astronauts tested technology that was going to be used in future missions like the moon landing. After Project Gemini, NASA launched Project Apollo. Apollo 11 in 1969 was the project in which NASA sent the first ever person to the moon. Neil Armstrong was one of many hardworking astronauts, and he became the first person to step foot on the moon. He set a high bar for future astronauts. The moon landing was a terrific accomplishment, but NASA did not stop there. In the 1960s and 70s, NASA launched space probes that studied other planets called the Mariner. Finally, in the 1970s, NASA also put the first space station in orbit called Skylab and launched Project Viking, which studied Mars. The next step NASA is taking in space exploration is sending us, the Ares 1 astronauts, to Mars. Our goal for this mission is to sustain life on Mars and set up a successful civilization. To do this, it requires us to have food, water, shelter, and oxygen. To introduce myself, I am Lucy Hutchison, the commander of this mission. My favorite sports are softball, basketball, and archery. I'm 5'3" and I'm 12 years old. My favorite animal is dogs. I would now like to take this opportunity to speak with each of my colleagues regarding their role in this incredible mission. First, I'm here with Jackson Wormke, our habitat designer. Before we talk about anything important, can you introduce yourself?
First off, I am very important. I am the habitat designer for our mission, and without a habitat, we wouldn't be able to survive. I am 12 years old, and my birthday is May 26th. My favorite activities are playing soccer, building Legos, and hanging out with my friends. My favorite animals are sharks and dogs.
Jackson, can you describe the challenges faced in designing a habitat far away from Earth?
Well, we need to find sustainable materials that will allow oxygen in our habitat so that we can breathe. Also, there's the extreme cold that could destroy the walls. After much research, I have been able to adapt and solve these problems. We are currently in the lab part of our habitat, which is right here. I will now show you a model of our campus.
Our campus is divided into 4 different sections.
In the first section here, there are 2 houses that can fit 2 people, and this third house here fits 3 people. In our farming section over here, there's hydroponics, aeroponics, and insect farming. There's our water tower and food storage. Our science section over here involves our lab, which we are currently in, and our realistic Mars terrain for testing. Finally, our recreational area, which we have our soccer field, basketball court, gymnastics arena, and indoor recreation activities.
Sounds like a lot of fun. What challenges came and what adaptations did you have to make specifically for the planet Mars?
Challenges like I just mentioned came, and I had to get specific materials to make sure we could live inside and not be in a spacesuit. I used materials such as geopolymer concrete, and sulfur concrete. I also used basalt glass fibers for windows. The different types of concrete will help make the structure stronger and be able to resist the intense temperatures of Mars. One of the most important aspects of our habitat is the storage of food and water. Although my teammate Lewis is in charge of food, I have to find out how to store it. So I designed a giant tank to store the water that can be refilled by taking it back to Earth. The structure is airtight and is not able to be affected by the harsh temperatures in space. Inside each unit and facility, there is plumbing that will be installed. To store the food, I designed a giant greenhouse-like building, which is right here, to keep bins of food, fruits, and vegetables ready for use. There are tubes that will automatically spray the produce to keep it fresh. Towards the back, I made an extra room with no light and small fans to store the canned foods and jerky. The only light is artificial and has to only be turned on when someone is in the room.
Finally, how did you find out the terrain you needed to deal with on Mars?
Well, when we sent Robot to Mars before us, he sent back pictures of Mars, and I was able to map out an area for the structure.
I understand we have all this complicated stuff, but how will we keep ourselves busy?
Well, I have a whole section, as I mentioned earlier, dedicated to recreation. I have installed a soccer and a basketball field here. Aiden, why'd you throw that? Anyway, there's a gymnastics arena and an indoor recreation activities, and a facility for indoor recreation activities too. None of us here actually do. Everyone loves to jump on trampolines. Any other activities are done inside the indoor recreation facility.
Thank you, Jackson. I know I love trampolines. Now let's go over to Luke with exploration. Here's Luke, our exploration specialist. Luke, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Luke Chacon. I like soccer, honey badgers, Legos, and video games. I was born on May 28, 2012, therefore making me the second youngest on the team.
What is your job as our exploration specialist?
My job is to find more territories for us to expand our habitat.
How do you go about doing this?
We use an advanced rover known as Robot to explore Mars before we got here, and now we use him to explore areas unknown to us. Because of this, we don't have to risk getting lost too far from our habitat, the only area that can support our necessities.
What is Robot made of that makes him able to be on Mars?
Robot is made out of aluminum and titanium because they are 2 durable materials that can withstand the cold. The tires are airless and made with industrial rubber, so they are strong and can handle the extreme Martian temperature.
Can you show us this robot?
robot is a high-tech robot designed to withstand the extreme cold and rough surfaces of Mars. He can collect samples and information using his claw and specialized camera, as well as a thermometer and other data collecting instruments.
Sounds like a very cool robot. Now let's head over to Aiden with communication. I'm here with Aiden Sinsheimer and Start of Communication. Aiden, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Aiden Sinsheimer, and I am in charge of the communication part of our Marsville mission. I am 5 foot tall, and my favorite activity is basketball.
To start, I have one important question. Are you an Apple or an Android person?
I'm an Apple person, but I miss being able to scroll on YouTube, text my friends, and quote them out of context on Discord. Now it takes 20 minutes for a radio transmission to travel the distance between Earth and Mars. That makes for a long conversation.
Wow. What are some of the challenges faced in creating a communication system for Mars?
Mars is very far away from Earth, so it takes about 20 minutes to send messages.
Are you able to communicate often with your family?
I can communicate with my family. It just takes a while to send messages back and forth, so I usually talk to them about once a week.
Can you tell us about how frequently you communicate with Earth?
I frequently communicate with Earth and send updates on our exploration progress and our progress in colonizing Mars. Our mission control on Earth helps us if we have challenges, and they help us keep track of our growth and our samples.
How do you get these messages to Earth?
We have a computer on which we send most of our messages, a satellite that passes the messages to Earth, and a rover that sends messages to the satellite. You will meet our friend Lewis later, but he is the mastermind behind our satellite. This is a model that he made.
How does being able to communicate with Earth help keep a sustainable, successful civilization on Mars?
We need to communicate with Earth frequently. If people get sick or injured, we can talk to doctors who tell us what to do. Also, talking to our families can help with homesickness.
Thank you so much for the information. Now we move on to Lewis with food. Now I bring you Lewis Del Garcia in charge of food. Lewis, can you tell us about yourself?
My role of the team is that I'm the nutritionist. I'm 12 years old, making me the second oldest of the team, being born on November 2nd, 2011. My favorite hobbies are to play sports, video games, and hanging out with my cousins. My eye color is brown, and I'm 5'1".
Very cool. I know I speak for many when I say I love a good hamburger and a hot dog. How will we be able to access protein and meat on Mars?
It's interesting you ask that because you don't.
Very unfortunate. I don't know how I'll survive. But what will we be eating on Mars?
We will be eating long-lasting foods like fruits, vegetables, jerky, and more. We will also ship canned beans. We will store the canned foods and jerky in the room with no light and have them fanned like Jackson mentioned before.
I love fruits and jerky, but how will we obtain them if we were to run out of them?
Well, let me go over the cons of growing food on Mars. The atmosphere, soil, and oxygen are not helpful with growing plants on Mars because they damage the plants that are trying to grow by creating bad hygiene for the plants and don't contribute to helping the plants grow.
It seems like there are many challenges to growing food. How do we overcome these?
That's where hydroponics, aeroponics, and insect farming comes in. Hydroponics is a technique of growing plants using a water-based nutrient solution rather than soil while including a growing media. Materials needed to build one include grow lights, water, a container, a way to anchor the plants, and of course the hydroponic nutrients such as potassium, nitrogen, calcium, and more. Here is our hydroponic model. These cartridges will be used to place the plants in here so that they can grow.
That's a great way to grow our plants, but where will we put it?
With a large amount of space, we will use a system on the surface of Mars and keep a house in an environment similar to interstellar labs, under the influence of Mars's gravity.
Sounds like a good idea to grow our food, but what about aeroponics and insect farming?
Well, aeroponics is similar to hydroponics, except we grow plants suspended in air without soil or media.
How does it work?
When using aeroponics, the seeds we are planting will be planted in pieces of foam stuffed into tiny pots, which are exposed to light on one end and nutrient mist on the other.
Pretty cool, but how do we make the system?
The system consists of many materials, including a reservoir to store the nutrient solution, mist nozzles, a nutrient pump, baskets to suspend plants. We also need tubing to distribute water from the nutrient pump to the mister heads, and finally a timer to turn the pump on and off.
Sounds like a lot, pretty similar to hydroponics. But is there anything else to worry about?
Well, aeroponics does require a lot of attention.
You said something about insect farming. What's that?
Insect farming is a technique that involves of the breeding and raising of insects for livestock.
We're gonna eat bugs?
Yes, here's a chocolate covered cricket.
What the skibbity? Jackson, you can take over now.
All right, Lewis. So, what other insects do you plan to use?
The insects we plan to use are ants, bees, crickets, black soldier fly larvae, worms, butterflies, and mealworms.
But what's good about eating insects? Specifically, why not different types of animals? As some of us don't like these insects. Lucy.
Well, insects are very high in protein, healthy fats, minerals, and vitamins, making them a great food source for us.
Now that you've said that, I think insects will make great foods for us on Mars, but I'll mostly stick to long-lasting foods and plants.
Well, you better get used to it. It's one of our only food sources here on Mars.
Thanks, Lewis. Now let's move on to Vincenzo with uniforms. But before we move on, Lucy, are you feeling better?
Not really. I still haven't recovered from eating bugs. But whatever. I'm now here with Vincenzo, our uniform specialist and patch designer. To start, Vinny, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Vincenzo Laganigro of the Ares 1 mission. I am the uniform designer. I am 12 years old, the youngest one on the team, my birthday being June 2nd, 2012. My hobbies are soccer, basketball, video games, and hanging out with my friends and family. I love dogs, lizards, bears, pigs, and basically all types of animals.
Very cool. Now to start, Vinny, what is our patch's story and purpose?
NASA patches are of great significance. Each mission includes the creation of a unique patch. This is our patch. Right here.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing this patch on my uniform. Speaking of uniforms, how have our uniforms been designed to protect us and keep us safe?
These uniforms will have nylon, spandex, urethane, dracon, neoprene, mylar, kenvar, and nomex.
How do these materials keep us safe from the cold and other harsh elements?
All these materials have their own unique way of protecting us. Spandex is a lightweight material that will be comfortable for astronauts to use. Kevlar protects us against complete range of incoming debris. Dracon will be used to protect us from extreme cold. Neoprene will be used so that we have the use of our fingers while in our spacesuits. And urethane has many cooling agents.
Well, I'm glad we have these protective uniforms, but what kind of shoes will we wear?
Our shoes will have silicone stones and woven stainless steel upper parts.
Thanks, Vinny. Now let's find out what some of our rules are here on Mars. Now I'm here with Jack Ability, our security mastermind. Jack, can you tell us about yourself?
My name is Jack Ippoliti. I'm 13 years old. My favorite color is blue, and I really like dogs, sports, and Modric.
Jack, why do we need security and rules here on Mars?
You see, if we did not have security in place, there would be a risk of our residents being injured. Our rules prevent injury and help shape a productive society here on Mars.
What are some rules you put in place to keep our crew safe and healthy?
Some of the rules we have put in place include a curfew set from 9:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m., rules for using water, a rule to turn off lights after use, and a restriction from exploring outside of our protected zone without proper authorization. As we bring more people to Mars, we will further enhance our security guidelines.
Why did you choose to put these specific rules in place?
These rules were put in place to keep our citizens safe and healthy. If we wasted too much water, we would have an issue because water is scarce here on Mars. Water is shipped from Earth in large canteens to our colony, which is a long process. If a resident were to wander outside or in a protective zone, they would be at high risk of injury without a profession in that field. On Earth, we have urgent cares and emergency rooms with the latest technology. Those places do not yet exist here on Mars. First responders like police officers are not here as well.
I know we are all glad to have these rules in place. That's all for now. Traveling to Mars is an extremely complex task that requires a ton of hard work, dedication, and determination. We have shared just a small part of what would be required to accomplish creating a civilization on Mars. This mission would not be possible without the team standing beside me and Mr. M, who refuses to come on camera. I would like to thank all of them for making this possible. We also need to thank our incredible team on Earth, Mr. Fry, Mr. O, Mr. Schuler, Mrs. P, the EATV crew, and the band. This would not be possible without them. Now, back to our friends on Earth for one last presentation.